Going live. I'm live! Amazing! I tested it 15 minutes ago, and then I was like, hey, now I wait 5 minutes and then go live again, and then all of a sudden I couldn't go live. And there's an Apollo butt for you. So as you might have noticed, it's working now. It is working now, finally. I had to delete a whole bunch of stuff that Microsoft put on my computer to make it, it was running very slowly. And then I deleted all of that, shitty things that Microsoft downloads on it. And now it's running perfectly and just fine. And if you may have noticed, we're in a different part of my apartment. Oh, God, these pants that's what, ouch, that's tea on my, oh no, it's falling apart. There we go. Oh dear. And I didn't properly, hold on. I'm in a tight ship here. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I wanted to switch something up. I wanted to move closer to the window to get more natural lighting, and the computer that I got is a Lenovo SlimPad, so it's much smaller, and it can actually run things like Streamlabs and Chrome and actual applications that are useful. So, how's everybody doing? We doing well? Bill, thank you so much for catching up on the stream. Everything is polished as fuck. Quite so. Very much so. I forget where we were.
You did 4 chapters each time. I think you're on chapter 13.
No, I'm on chapter 13? No, I'm on chapter 9.
Oh, okay.
Right? Oh, no, it's fine. It's, again, that's why YouTube, keeps things up forever. That's the whole point of this. At your leisure. It's just fun to do things live, because it feels like I'm on TV. It's my day off, so I'm very relaxed right now. Anyway, shall we press on? Or let's recap actually quickly to give we'll recap a little bit. Milo is traveling through the land of rhyme and reason and words and math. And he came across a city called Dictionopolis, and that's a city where all the words are made. And he met a bunch of colorful characters, including a guy called the Humbug that agrees with everybody. And we know those people very well. He also met the witch, who used to choose which words were being spoken, and now she doesn't. And that's why everybody in Dictionopolis always spoke with great verbosity, which is a fun word to say. Then he also met the king of Dictionopolis, which was King Azaz the Unabridged. And he sent them on a quest to restore rhyme and reason. But to do that, he has to go up to Digitopolis, where Azaz the Unabridged brother is. And the Humbug volunteered himself without really realizing it. So Milo and Talk and the Humbug have left Dictionopolis and are traveling up north to the frigid lands where the numbers live. Because numbers are crunchy and like it cold. Chapter 9. It's all you Howen-looking things. Soon all traces of Dictionopolis had vanished in the distance, and all those strange and unknown lands that lay between the kingdom of words and the kingdom of numbers stretched before them. It was late afternoon, and the dark orange sun floated heavily over the distant mountains. A friendly, cool breeze slapped playfully at the car, and the long shadows stretched out lazily from the trees and bushes. "Ah, the open road," exclaimed the Humbug, breathing deeply, for he now seemed happily resigned to the trip. "The spirit of adventure, the lure of the unknown, the thrill of a gallant quest. How very grand indeed." Then, pleased with himself, he folded his arms, sat back, and left it at that. In a few more minutes, they had left the open countryside and driven into a dense forest. "This is the scenic route, straight ahead to Point of View," announced a rather large road sign, but contrary to its statement, all that could be seen were more trees. As the car rushed along, the trees grew thicker and taller and leafier until they'd hidden the sky completely. The forest abruptly ended then, and a road bent around itself, around a broad promontory. Stretching below, to the left, the right, and straight ahead, as far as anyone could see, lay the rich green landscape through which they had been traveling. "Remarkable view," announced the humbug, bouncing from the car as if he were responsible for the whole thing. "Isn't it beautiful?" gasped Milo. "Oh, I don't know," answered a strange voice. "It's all in the way you look at things." "I beg your pardon," said Milo, for he didn't see who had spoken. "I said it's all in the way you look at things," repeated the voice. Milo turned around and found himself staring at two very neatly polished shoes, for standing directly in front of him, if you can use the word standing for anyone suspended in midair, was another boy just about his age, whose feet were easily 3 feet off the ground. Here is a lovely illustration by Jules Pfeiffer that pepper this book. So this is what I saw. "For instance," continued the boy, "if you happen to like desserts, you might not think this was beautiful at all." "That's true," said the humbug, who didn't like to contradict anyone whose feet were that far off the ground. "For instance," said the boy again, "if Christmas trees were people and people were Christmas trees, we'd all be down, put up in the living room, and covered with tinsel, while trees opened our presents." "What does that have to do with it?" asked Milo. "Nothing at all," he answered. "But it's an interesting possibility, don't you think?" "How do you manage to stand up there?" asked Milo, for this was the subject which most interested him. "I was about to ask you a similar question," answered the boy, "for you must be much older than you look to be standing on the ground." "What do you mean?" asked Milo. "Well," said the boy, "in my family, everyone is born in the air, with his head at exactly the height of it's going to be when he's an adult, and then we all grow toward the ground. When we're fully grown up, or as you can see, grown down, our feet finally touch. Of course, there are a few of us whose feet never reach the ground, no matter how old we get, but I suppose it's the same in every family." He hopped a few steps in the air, skipped back to where he started, and then began again. "You certainly must be very old to have reached the ground already." "Oh, no," said Milo seriously. "In my family, we all start on the ground and grow up, and we never know how far we actually get, and we never know how far until we actually get there." "What a silly system," the boy laughed. "Then your head always keeps changing its height, and you always see things in a different way. Why, when you're 15, things won't look at all the way they did when you were 10, and at 20, everything will change again." "I suppose so," replied Milo, for he had never really thought about the matter. "We always see things from the same angle," the boy continued. It's much less trouble that way. Besides, it makes more sense to grow down and not up. When you're very young, you can never hurt yourself falling down if you're in mid-air, and you certainly can't get in trouble for scuffing up your shoes or marking the floor if there's nothing to scuff them on, and the floor is 3 feet away. "That's very true," thought Talk, who wondered how the dogs in the family liked the arrangement. "But there are many other ways to look at things," remarked the boy. "For instance, you had orange juice, boiled eggs, toast and jam, and milk for breakfast," he said, turning to Milo. "And you are always worried about people wasting time," he said to Talk. "And you are almost never right about anything," he said, pointing at the humbug. "And when you are, it's usually an accident." "A gross exaggeration," protested the furious bug, who didn't realize that so much was visible to the naked eye. "Amazing," gasped Talk. "How do you know all that?" asked Milo. "Simple," he said profoundly. "I am Alec Bings. I see through things. I can see whatever is inside, behind, around, covered by, or subsequent to anything else. In fact, the only thing I can't see is whatever happens to be right in front of my nose." "Isn't that a little inconvenient?" asked Milo, whose neck was becoming quite stiff from looking up. "It is a little," replied Alec, "but it is quite important to know what lies behind things, and the family helps me take care of the rest. My father sees to things, my mother looks after things, my brother sees beyond things, my uncle sees the other side of every question, and my little sister Alice sees under things." "How can she see under things if she's all the way up there?" growled the humbug. "Well," added Alec, turning over a neat cartwheel, "whatever she can't see under, she overlooks." "Would it be possible for me to see something from up there?" asked Milo politely. "You could," said Alec, "but only if you try very hard to look at things as an adult does." Milo tried as hard as he could, and as he did, his feet floated slowly off the ground until he was standing in the air next to Alec Bings. He looked around very quickly, and an instant later crashed back down to earth again. "Interesting, wasn't it?" asked Alec. "Yes, it was," agreed Milo, rubbing his head and dusting himself off. "But I think I'll continue to see things as a child. It's not so far to fall." "A wise decision, at least for the time being," said Alec. "Everyone should have his own point of view." "Isn't this everyone's point of view?" asked Talk, looking around curiously. "Of course not," replied Alec, sitting himself down on nothing. "It's not only mine, and you certainly can't always look at things from... It's only mine. Sorry. Let me take a cup of tea, recenter, and start that again." "Isn't this everyone's point of view?" asked Talk, looking around curiously. "Of course not," said Alec, sitting himself down on nothing. "It's only mine, and you certainly can't always look at things from someone else's point of view. For instance, from here, that looks like a bucket of water," he said, pointing to a bucket of water. "But from an ant's point of view, it's a vast ocean. From an elephant's, it's just a cool drink. And to a fish, of course, it's home. So, you see, the way you see things depends a great deal on where you look at them from. Now come along, and I'll show you the rest of the forest." He ran quickly through the air, stopping occasionally to beckon Milo, Talk, and the humbug along, and they followed as well as anyone who had to stay on the ground could. "Does everyone here grow the way you do?" puffed Milo when he had caught up. "Almost everyone," replied Alec. And then he stopped a moment and thought. "Now and then, though, someone does begin to grow differently. Instead of down, his feet grow upward toward the sky. But we do our best to discourage awkward things like that." "What happens to them?" insisted Milo. "Oddly enough, they grow 10 times the size of everyone else," said Alec thoughtfully. "And I've heard that they walk among the stars." And with that, he skipped off once again toward the waiting woods. That's a lovely chapter. Alec Bings. He sees through things. Oh, this is a lovely one as well. Chapter 10, A Colorful Symphony. As they ran, tall trees closed in around them and arced gracefully toward the sky. The late afternoon sunlight leaped lightly from leaf to leaf, slid along branches and down trunks, and dropped finally to the ground in warm, luminous patches. A soft glow filled the air with a kind of light that made everything look sharp and clear and close enough to reach out and touch. See the next one itself, and was continually crashing into it. After several minutes of I feel Alec being source of movement in my soul. Like, I'm always looking one. I think we're lost, panted the humbug, collapsing into a large berry bush. "Nonsense," shouted Alec from the high branch on which he sat. "Certainly," he replied. "We're right here on this very spot. Besides, being lost is never a matter of not knowing where you are. It's a matter of not knowing where you aren't. And I don't care at all about where I just begun repeating it to himself when Alex said, "If you don't believe me, ask the giant." And he pointed to a small house tucked neatly between two of the largest trees. Milo and Talk walked up to the door, whose brass nameplate simply read, "The Giant." The door. There's a perfectly ordinary sized man, the giant. "Are you the giant?" asked Talk doubtfully. "To be sure," he replied proudly. "I'm the smallest giant. Why don't you go around back and ask the midget?" And he closed the door. They walked to the rear of the house, which looked exactly like the front, and knocked at the door, whose nameplate read, "The Midget." "How are you?" inquired the man, who looked exactly like the giant. "Are you the midget?" asked Talk again, with a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "Unquestionably," he answered. So there they are. The smallest giant and the tallest midget right there. "Do you think we're lost?" repeated Milo. "That's a very complicated problem," he said. "Why don't you go around to the side and ask the fat man?" And he too disappeared quickly. The house looked very like the front and back, and the door flew open the very instant they knocked. "How nice of you to come by!" exclaimed the man, who could have been the midget's twin brother. "You must be the fat man," said Talk, learning not to count too much on appearance. "The thinnest one in the world," he replied brightly. "But if you have any questions, I suggest you try the thin man on the other side of the house." Just expected, the other who looked precisely like the other three. "What a pleasant surprise!" he cried happily. "I haven't had a visitor in as long as I can remember," to answer the door. "But you just did." "Fattest thin man in the world?" asked Talk. "Do you know one that's fatter?" he asked impatiently. Oh, emphatically. Then drawing Milo closer. "Do you want to ruin every giant? To the skinny ones, I'm a fat man, and as you can see, though, I'm neither tall, nor short, nor fat. Ordinary men that no one asks their opinion." "Are we lost?" asked, scratching his head. "I haven't had such a difficult question in as long as I can remember." I asked the question again. My, that's exactly where you are. On the other hand, you often find that where you've been is not at all where you should have gone, and since it's much more difficult to find your way back from it, if you have any more questions, please ask. Be the rain. Oh dear.